You design. Hi, everyone. Welcome to another Clean Machine Live. So I was just searching through YouTube, and there is, let me go ahead and take this caption off the screen. Okay, there was a lot of, oh gosh, let's see. Giving away my, all right, let's see if I can take this off the screen here. There we go. All right. Okay, let's get started. My name is Geoff Palmer. I'm CEO and founder of Clean Machine, and this video is for informational and educational purposes only and is not intended to diagnose, treat, cure, or prevent any disease. Okay. New study out. Well, it's actually not even a real study. I'll go ahead and put it up on the screen for you here. This is a 2024 review. It just came out, and I should say review in quotes, because usually if you look at the pyramid of quality of studies, at the very top of the pyramid is systematic reviews and meta-analysis. This is a review of all the research, right? And this is what technically a systematic review should be. Occasionally, though, somebody basically write what's called a white paper, which is just an opinion piece. And the opinion piece, in this case, this review was written by an author who happens to be an employee for a company that makes a nutritional supplement. Yeah. So when I say review, this is not even a real study. And everybody is talking about it on social media, on YouTube, especially as breakthrough study, brand new, first essential nutrient ever discovered in years. Okay, and it's found in butter, right? And in dairy products. You got to eat animal products in order to get this amazing C15 odd chain fatty acid that has all these health benefits. Now, I am not here to argue the health benefits. The health benefits for odd chain fatty acids, C15 and C17, are real and substantiated by science. This, however, is an opinion piece. This is somebody trying to puff up this and make it something it's not. So, two major things that I want to point out. Number one, it's being called an essential fatty acid. It is not. Okay, so let's talk about what is essential. The meaning of the word essential, meaning we have to get it from outside of our body because our body itself can't endogenously inside our body make it. Okay, they used to think this about EPA and DHA. We can't make it, so it's an essential fatty acid. Now we know. Now, false. Both EPA and DHA are not essential nutrients. Our body can make EPA and DHA from the only essential omega-3, ALA. Okay, so when they found this, they thought, oh, you have to get this from diet because our body doesn't make odd chain fatty acids C15 and C17. And this is not only false, it's been known that we make odd chain fatty acid C15 since 2016. We're talking almost a decade ago that this has been established that human beings can make it. All right, let's break it down here. So let's first dive into the study, because the study is based on a really interesting prospect, which is cellular stability. Now, this is important, and C15 fatty acid does help in maintaining cell structure, cell stability, and what they call cell fragility, which means its susceptibility to being damaged by, catch this, ferroptosis. Okay, what is ferroptosis? Ferroptosis, ferro coming from the Latin word iron, and optosis, which is related to apoptosis, which is cell death. That's a cell dying. So Ferroptosis means iron causing a cell to die, basically. There's the proper explanation for it. It's a newly discovered form of cell death caused by peroxidation. That is iron picking up an oxygen molecule and it's oxidized. And then that oxygen, which is really corrosive, can damage cells, can damage cell membranes, can damage DNA, and can eventually even kill the cell. Okay, so that is ferroptosis. Ferroptosis is one of the few ways cells can be killed. All right. So the study goes on. I have no problem here. Ferroptosis is a serious thing, and we'll talk about why it's serious and what causes ferroptosis in just a second. Ferroptosis has been linked to age-related conditions, including type 2 diabetes, cardiovascular disease, non-alcoholic fatty liver disease or syndrome. Okay, all true. This is well established in the science. And they say in this review that evidence is provided to show that cell membranes optimally need this amount of C15 to provide stability to the cell to support long-term health and, keyword here, longevity, cellular longevity. We're going to come back to that in a second, but let's go ahead and continue. So they go on to say pentadecanoic acid, which is C15's proper name, is an odd chain fatty acid. It's because all fatty acids are chains of carbons. So there's 15 carbons in that chain. It's an odd number, whereas most of the fatty acids, like EPA, DHA, ALA, these are simply even chains. So odd chains are a little bit more rare in the human body, the odd number of carbon chains. Okay, so that's where it gets its name, odd chain fatty acid. They say it's an essential fatty acid with the primary roles of stabilizing cell membranes and repairing mitochondrial function. That's true. The part that's not true in this sentence is it's an essential fatty acid. It's non-essential because we make it. Okay. And by doing so, C15 reverses the underpinnings of ferroptosis. It can protect against ferroptosis actually killing the cells. Now, that's a good thing. And they call it the cellular stability hypothesis. Okay. Hypothesis is keyword here because we don't know that that's absolutely true, but I think it's a fairly good assumption. Okay. So they say there is abundant evidence that lower circulating C15 concentrations are associated with a higher risk of type 2 diabetes, cardiovascular disease, and non-alcoholic fatty liver disease. Okay, watch that really closely because you're going to see something interesting. 3 diseases clearly established in the science. Low C15 means higher risk for diabetes, type 2 diabetes, cardiovascular disease, and non-alcoholic fatty liver disease. Now, I want you to take a look at this study, and the link for it is in the green section as always. High fiber consumption is associated with a 15 to 30% decrease in all cause of cardiovascular disease mortality. That's actually dying from it. So higher fiber can reduce your risk of dying from cardiovascular disease, like a heart attack or stroke or hypertension. 30%, up to 30% reduction of dying from cardiovascular disease, and lower risk for heart disease, type 2 diabetes, gastrointestinal cancer. That's also a good one. And of course, non-alcoholic fatty liver syndrome. So that's interesting. So the low amount of C15 is the exact same reduction in health concerns as fiber. That's an interesting coincidence. Now, is that correlation? Or is there something causal going on here? You get higher C15 rates, you get better health outcomes with these 4 or 5 different diseases. You have higher fiber intake, you get the same results. That's an interesting correlation, but that's just correlation, Geoff. That's not causation. Exactly. So let's take a look at why this may be causation. Okay, so the big question then is, how is C15 made in the human body? Well, we know this. It's established in the literature that C15 is made from the short chain fatty acid propionate. It's made in the liver. So the liver gets propionate in the bloodstream and elongates it into odd chain fatty acids C15 and C17. So this is how we make it. This is the most common way. There's actually a couple other pathways. Branched chain amino acids can do it, and a couple other pathways too that I'm not going to mention because they're backup pathways. This is the dominant pathway and how our body makes its own C15. Okay, so just to show that this is really happening, there's the link to the study. Recently, we demonstrated that endogenous, that's made inside the body, odd chain fatty acid synthesis, like C15 and C17, are made from propionate in humans. So there it is right there on the screen. This is 2016 study. So way long ago, we knew that our body was making its own odd chain fatty acid. So it cannot, by definition, be an essential fatty acid. It's just flat out false. And we've known this for 8 or 9 years. Okay. So the next question is, well, this propionate, short chain fatty acid propionate, how is it made by the human body? It is made in our gut. Our microbiome ferments fiber and churns it into the short chain fatty acid propionate. So where does fiber come from? All right, fiber only comes from plants. We can also get it from fungi and algae, but the dominant source, the vast majority of fiber we get in our diets comes from plants. Animals make zero fiber. There is no fiber in any animal product, period, unless you're eating the contents of the stomach of an herbivorous animal. Okay, so then the question is, well, wait a minute, I've heard it's the highest amounts are in butter. That's not true. It's a fraction of amounts are in butter. Now, how does it get into the butter? Well, why is there C15 in dairy products? Cows. Who makes that dairy? Cows do. What do cows eat? Cows eat a very, very large amount of fiber, grass, or even oats and grains. And that is fermented in their guts. Actually, they have multiple, but it's fermented in their guts to produce short chain fatty acids and propionate. Now, humans produce it just the same way. Not exactly the same way. Cows have more stomachs than we do, but just the same way other non-ruminant animals do. All non-ruminant herbivorous animals actually produce short chain fatty acids through the digestion of fiber. Carnivorous animals don't do that. We're not carnivores. So is C15 an essential fatty acid? No, because our body can make this in multiple pathways. There's the definition of an essential amino acid, essential fatty acid, same thing. But the same is true with essential amino acids. Our body can't make this, so we have to get them from our diet. And once again, plants are the source of that. An essential nutrient is a substance the body can't make in sufficient quantities or at all and must be obtained from food. This does not have to be obtained from food. We just simply eat our normal diet and our body will produce it from the foods that we eat. Okay. So where pentanoid is actually a saturated fat. So this is interesting because a lot of people badmouth saturated fats. And all saturated fats are not created equal. Some saturated fats probably have some, especially in larger quantities, deleterious effects on the body. This one actually has a good purpose in our body. So let's not clump all saturated fats or all PUFAs as being good or bad. They both can be either. Let's focus on which specific ones are good and which ones should we be consuming more or less of. Okay, so let's back up to the original premise of C15 actually helping protect against ferroptosis. So what is ferroptosis? Ferroptosis is the iron-dependent process that results in the accumulation of toxic lipid peroxides. So iron is a metal. It rusts. And when it rusts, that rust is actually oxidation. That's oxygen actually chewing up, basically like acid, degrading that metal. That's what you see when you see rusted metal that is oxidized. That oxidation that's happening is oxygen being corrosive to that metal. Well, when that response happens, it breaks out and creates these free radicals, these toxic lipid peroxides. They can stick to fats, lipid peroxides, lipid per meaning multiple oxides. That's multiple oxygen molecules stuck to that lipid. Okay, now those lipids start being very corrosive and damaging and create free radical oxygen species, which ultimately can lead to cell death. All right, so what causes ferroptosis? Bingo, heme iron. Okay, so where does heme iron come from? Heme iron only comes from one place, and that is animal flesh. Plants do not make heme iron. Humans, we make our own heme iron, but we regulate it. We carefully make sure only enough heme iron is made just for our blood. When we eat an animal product, animal flesh, animal meat, and that's fish, poultry, lamb, chicken, doesn't matter, pork, all of them contain heme iron. Heme iron, our body thinks heme iron, oh, that belongs in our bloodstream. Let's absorb it really fast. We used to think this was a good thing. Now we know it's a bad thing because it soaks up too much iron, and that free iron can oxidize, cause ferroptosis, right? All that extra iron, our body, without any antioxidants bound to it, antioxidate, blocking that oxygen. So when you eat plant foods, it comes bound to an antioxidant. That protects that iron from oxidizing. Plants have made it so that our body isn't damaged by the iron that we get from plants. Now, animal iron is free iron. That can oxidize very rapidly. So lots of oxygen molecules sticking to it, and that's where it becomes dangerous, and that's how it causes ferroptosis or cell death. Okay. Now, it's interesting in the study, this original study that was done by Fatty 15, an employee from Fatty 15, the supplement, they said, given the declining intake of C15, they're meaning the declining intake of dairy, I'm assuming, especially among younger generations, and younger generations, sure enough, are refusing to drink milk because of the horrific animal industry. And because we know for lots of populations, up to 60, 70% of the global population, dairy causes allergies in people. People do not break them down. It's basically white Anglo-Saxons that have developed a genetic variation that allows them to digest this. Blacks, Hispanics, Asians, Native Americans do not, in general, digest milk very well. So you can see a rapid decline in it. So their assumption is that, one, C15 must come from dairy. That's false. Two, because the declining dairy intake, that's the reason that C15 is lower in humans. And I'm going to show you why that's false as well. Okay, so let's get to got these out of order. Give me just a second. Right, here we go. Okay, so we see from fossilized human poop. This is a study of taking fossilized human poop all over the world that has been fossilized. We can take a look at that poop and see what human beings were not only eating, but pooping out. And they found that almost all of the populations of the planet were eating a lot of fiber. The link to the study is down below. You can see it there. So they took measurements from coprolites, that's the fossilized human poop, and they found in South America, they were eating about 100 grams of fiber per day. In Australia, same thing, 100 grams of fiber a day. And in Africa, eating a bit more, actually, 120 grams of fiber a day. And this is an average out of all the fossilized human poop they found in the area and analyzed. And in North America, woo, catch this one, up to 225 grams of fiber per day they were consuming. Just to give you a reference of how much plant matter that would eat to poop out that much fiber, modern Americans, on average, are consuming 10 to 15 grams of fiber a day. So if you want to eat like our ancestors, you have to eat about 10 to 20 times as many plants foods as you are eating currently today for the average American. 10 to 20 times more plants. Now, if you think just eating a few more vegetables is tough, imagine eating 10 to 20 times more vegetables. That's going to leave absolutely zero room for you to eat anything else. It means they were almost dominantly or exclusively consuming plant matter. That's the only way they could poop out 225 grams of fiber a day, whereas we're only pooping out 15 grams of fiber a day. Okay. So if that's the case, well, then let's look at what that does. Okay. So this is a 2018 study. This shows the telomere length of over 5,500 people in the NANA study in biological aging. And they found with every 10 grams of fiber intake per 1,000 calories, that would equate to 5.4 fewer years of biological aging. Now, this is our telomere length. So this is at a cellular state. So by increasing just 10 grams of fiber, just 10 grams more of fiber, you can add 5.5 years less aging to your body. That's amazing. And that's part of the vitality that can come only with plant foods. Remember, fiber only comes from plants. You cannot get fiber from any animal product. Nothing in dairy, nothing in eggs, none in fish, none in any animal flesh, none, zero. The only place you can get fiber, and you can add biological years. You can reduce the aging process of your body just by 10 grams of fiber. These people are doing, our ancestors were doing 225 grams of fiber. Oh my God. So when we look at that, and they look in the EPIC study, the odd chain fatty acid concentrations in plasma phospholipids, that's in the blood, were significantly associated with the intakes of fruit and vegetables. Now there we see a direct correlation. The more fiber you eat in fruits and vegetables, the higher the odd chain fatty acid concentration. So not just an association by, hey, wait a minute, when you consume fibers, you reduce the risk for type 2 diabetes, cardiovascular disease, non-alcoholic fatty liver disease. And then when you increase the intake of C15, you do the same thing. But the intake of fiber is increasing the C15 levels. That's why you're getting the same results in both of those research. This real simple here. When you eat fiber, it goes into our gut. And I'll put the conclusion of the study right up here. Significant fiber consumption accounts for longer telomeres and less biologic age. Oops, that's the wrong one. Okay, here we go. Dietary fiber results in a measurable increase of short-chain fatty acids, including propionic acid and subsequently C15 and C15 in the bloodstream. There it is, plain and simple. So when you eat fiber, the microbiome, our microbiome, converts that into short-chain fatty acid, propionic acid. Then that goes into our bloodstream, and the liver converts that into C15. Real simple pathway. Fiber, short chain fatty acid propionate, changed in by the liver into C15. Real simple pathway. So we see that basically the higher the amount of fiber intake you are doing, the higher amount of C15. And this is how you can get all the benefits without consuming any dairy, without consuming any animal products whatsoever. As a matter of fact, the more fibers you eat, the less room you're going to have in your belly for those other foods. And this is exactly what we were seeing in our ancestors. They were eating tons and tons of plant-based foods from fiber, mostly tubers and starchy vegetables, and then berries, nuts, seeds, grains, and beans. These are all loaded with fiber, great sources of fiber. So even to show you that, hey, wait a minute, how do we know that that propionic acid is getting to the liver? Here it is from the study itself. Most of the gut microbial, most of the propionic acid that is formed by our gut microbiome in the gut is metabolized by the liver. It's right there. That is directly from the study. You don't have to take my word for it. This is really clear. It's been well established for almost 10 years in the research that this is the process. This is how humans, like other animals, including the cows that make that dairy, make C15. Look, I have nothing against the supplement. If you want to take the supplement, cool. It may have health benefits to it. What I'm just saying is there may not be a need for it if you are consuming a rich source of and a decent source of fiber. But this also tells us that the more fiber we consume, basically the more plants we consume, since plants are the only source of fiber, then the more propionic acid we'll have. Then the more we'll create in our liver C15, the healthier our cells, the more stable our cells were. So I am not knocking at all the studies or the supplement. What I want to do is establish the truth. One, it's not essential. Two, no, you don't have to eat or consume dairy to get it. Three, the largest and most plentiful and bountiful and most prominent source is consuming fiber. That is what will increase our odd chain fatty acids. So here's the 2017 study, and odd chain fatty acids are now even considered a biomarker for dietary fiber intake. That means we can just say, hey, if we see a high amount of odd chain fatty acids, we pretty much know that the human being is intaking a higher quantity of fiber. Now, this is and you can see the second half of this sentence, the title of this study, published in the American Journal of Clinical Nutrition. This is a novel pathway. Novel to us. This has always been happening in the human beings. And our ancestors clearly knew this. They were benefiting from it by consuming so much fiber. A novel pathway for endogenous production of propionate, which then leads to the creation in our liver of odd chain fatty acids C15 and C17. Okay, so the association of odd chain fatty acids with the decreased risk of type 2 diabetes may therefore also relate to dietary fiber intake and not only the dairy fat. So this is really interesting that this study and these multiple studies are showing, our data shows that gut-derived propionate is used for hepatic, that's liver, synthesis of odd chain fatty acids in humans. So folks out there, I see so many doctors out there saying, oh, this is essential fatty acid, our body can't make it. That's right there. It's right there. Stop with the BS. Come on, tell people the truth at least. Look, I have nothing against sell supplements. I obviously sell supplements. That's cool, that's fine. And many supplements can be health promoting. Even C15, fatty 15 can be health promoting. That's not what I'm saying here. I'm saying is this. if you eat a high plant-based diet, you will be getting more C15 produced endogenously in your body than your body can even utilize. So probably end up burning it for energy, which is what the fate of many fatty acids happens. So I just wanted to share this information because it's spreading like wildfire, all this misinformation about odd chain fatty acids on the internet, especially on YouTube. And I'm sad to say it's being spouted and repeated and regurgitated by doctors. Come on. If I have access to this data, if I can go on and do some Google searching and search on Medline and PubMed and reach out to a few doctor friends, plant-based doctor friends of mine, and get this information, then they should be able to get this information. Let's tell the people to start with the truth. Now, I'm a fan of C15. I'm a big fan of C15 and C17, by the way, the other major odd chain fatty acid that's been identified so far. Good health benefits for it. Amazing. But those consuming a high fiber plant-based, whole food plant-based diet are getting tons of this stuff. You do not need to take a supplement for this. And spouting this misinformation to try to sell supplements, I don't do that. I sell supplements, but I tell people the truth. I present the real research. I present how the body works and how the supplements work with the body. There's a big difference there. I'm out to help people, not try to fool people into buying something that they don't need. There's a difference here. Well, I hope you got the information, and I hope you don't for all the stuff that's being cycled on the internet right now. I'll keep bringing you the scientific information. I'll break it down and try to make it as simple as possible, digestible for everyone, and make those fibers more digestible so you get higher odd chain fatty acids too as well. Be sure and check out some of my other videos. You can see them on Clean Machine Online. Go to YouTube and you can see them on Clean Machine Online. I've got tons of different topics breaking down oxalates and lectins and B12 and vitamin A, and should you take DHA and all of these things. And I always present the research. I'll present the titles to you, or at least the link, so that you can look up the studies and read them yourselves, so that you can see that I'm not cherry picking. When and where I can get meta-analysis, which is a review of multiple studies instead of just a single study. Sometimes that's all that's available, so that's what I'll present. But I'll also systematic analysis, not reviews like this one that is opinion piece. Yes, it's looking at some studies, and yes, some of the studies are disclosing that C15 is a very important nutrient for our body, but it's one that our body can make. And that's why it's important to say, wait a minute, do we really need this supplement? And look, there's nothing wrong with taking this supplement. But if you're on, I hear all these people saying, hey, Geoff, I've been vegan and I hear about this odd chain fatty acid and it only comes from dairy products and that we don't get enough in our diet because we don't make it. Okay, one, we do make it, so that's false. Two, it doesn't only come from dairy. That's false. These are scare tactics to make you think you're missing out on something that is really good. It is really good. That part is true. But your body is making it if you're consuming a high fiber, whole food, plant-based diet. That's what I want you to know. I hope you enjoyed this video. If you did, give it a thumbs up. I'm trying to get some more reviews, so please share if you feel so inclined. Trying to get more people aware of this information. Have such a small following. Anything you can do to help increase our following, really appreciate it. As always, I'll be back again next week with more good information to help you live the best life you possibly can.